Oh yeah, that's how madam jello dashi teleshu.
All right, so greetings and welcome everyone. So we're not going to spend any time in preliminaries. We're going to start straight away with reciting Gaden Lagema. And as we're reciting this, you know that this is an excellent way to set and adjust our motivation. And in addition to that, whilst we recite Gaden Lagema, we must be aware that this actually helps us to build up our accumulation. We have explained the 7 limbs and what is included in the 7 limb prayer. And you can have this recognition that Gaden Lagema actually fulfills the 7 limbs and therefore helps us build up our accumulation. So let's begin with the text, reciting Gaden Lagema. Okay, so we have reached this point in the Lamrim where we are looking at the very important subject, which is the way to rely on the spiritual teacher. Because, as we said, it is a very important subject, because from this point onwards, we start from the actual practice or the actual body of the Lamrim, isn't it? And for this reason, we say that all the practice of the Lamrim begins or relies upon the root, and the root of the path is to rely upon the spiritual teacher. Because it is such an important subject, there is the tradition that every teaching that is given, there will be like an initial presentation, and then there will be almost like a revision of that material. So there will be a second time going over the material, and then a third time going over the material, even 4 times going over the material in any given session. However, Geshe says, I'm not following this format because we don't have the time to do that. So the way that we are presenting the Lamrim in this class is that we have one single presentation without repeating the material 3 and 4 times. But in this one presentation that we have a very thorough presentation. So we go through all the outlines and definitely explain everything in great detail. This has great benefit because when you present all the outlines, all the subheadings, you have a very good idea of the structure of the material. If you want to perform what is called the glance meditation, the glance meditation is a type of meditation that is very quickly goes through basically just the outlines. And when you perform that glance meditation, you must perform it in a complete manner, meaning you should not omit anything, any step. Every outline is a step, so you should not omit any step or any outline. So in order to be able to do this type of meditation, the glance meditation properly, you must have all the outlines. Okay, so you must know the Lamrim material, and this comes with the certainty of the outlines. The way that this is described through an analogy is that when you perform this glance meditation, it's like as if you have reached the peak of the mountain, and from the peak of the mountain, you're looking down in the valley, and you can see, there's a village here, there's a village there, and in this village, there is this house, and next to it, this house, and next to it, this house. So it's like you have a complete overview from the top. This is the glance meditation, and you do this by understanding the outlines. So this is what we are presenting here. So in order to do that, we are providing you with the means of performing this type of meditation. All right, so we begin now with day 8. Kyabje Pabongka Rinpoche quoted this verse by J. Rinpoche. Anyone unattached to worldly happiness, who yearning to give meaning to their optimum rebirth, follows a path pleasing to the victors. All fortunate ones, listen with clear mind. So Pabongka Rinpoche began the day by quoting this particular verse from Lama Tsongkhapa in order to set the motivation. With the first line, where it says here, the first line, anyone unattached to worldly happiness, right? Refers to correct view according to the medium scope, because in the middle scope, what we do is we have the aspiration to be free from samsara, so unattached to worldly happiness. Then it says the second refers to the small scope section of the path. So the second line says, yearning to give meaning to their optimum rebirth. In the small scope, there is quite a lot of emphasis on obtaining the precious human rebirth, or in any case, obtaining a higher rebirth as a human and a god, but great emphasis on the precious human rebirth. And then it says the third refers to bodhicitta in the great scope. The third line is talking about following the path, pleasing the victors. So it talks about generating bodhicitta, the mind generation, and so forth. So practices of the great scope. So having given this introduction to set our motivation, he restated the headings we had already covered and revisited the first two main headings of the main body of the Lamrim discourse. So he set up the motivation by making references to the three scopes, to the practices of the three scopes. And he reiterated, or he went over the main outlines that had been covered up to these points. And then it says, these headings deal with one's devotion to a spiritual guide. So he brought the audience quickly in terms of the outlines up to the point of this issue that we are discussing, the proper way to rely on a spiritual teacher. He then continued, this particular heading treats the subject, so the subject is the way to rely on a spiritual teacher, only as a topic of meditation. The headings in the swift path and the easy path are not clear about how one should investigate a potential spiritual guide. So I now want to discuss this according to Manjushri's own words. So we see the best text to look for the way to investigate the guru is Manjushri's own words. If, as stated above, relying on a spiritual guide has this benefit, and if not relying on one has these drawbacks. So we have already gone through this explanation that explains that if you rely upon a spiritual teacher, there are 8 benefits. And if you do not rely, there are 8 faults. So if this is the case, right, then on whom then should we rely? So the question is, who do you rely upon? Who do you take as a teacher? Relying on any spiritual guide at all is not good enough. Like, that indicates that you cannot just take anyone as your teacher. That will not do. You must rely on one who can teach the whole path. So that is a very important point. It says you must rely upon a teacher who is able to teach the whole path, beginning from the proper way to rely on a spiritual guide, all the way up to reaching the state of a union. So that means that you need to rely upon a teacher who is able to guide you through all the practices of the small scope, the medium scope, the great scope, and take you all the way to enlightenment. And that also includes the tantric paths, because we know that there is no enlightenment without the tantric paths. So this is the teacher you're looking for, someone who is fully qualified, can guide you through the entire path. Someone with only a few good qualities, being extremely kind-hearted, for example, may not be capable of teaching the whole path. So it gives the example here of someone who only have limited qualities, has some qualities. It means they don't have all the qualities, all the knowledge, all the skill. And one of the qualities that it mentions here is someone who is extremely kind. Now, having kindness, and as it says here, extremely kind, is a wonderful quality. However, it is not enough to lead you through all the 3 scopes and through Tantra and take you all the way to enlightenment. So as it says here, must be capable of teaching the whole path. And if it only has limited qualities, it will be limited in his or her capacities. So it says, even though the disciples may have faith, wisdom, and perseverance, if the guru has not fully mastered the sutras and tantras, the disciples will spend their entire human life practicing just a few things, taking refuge, some sadhanas of deities, meditation on the energy, winds and channels, and so forth. The disciples' opportune rebirth will not be made meaningful. So what it says here, if your teacher is limited, then what you will practice will be limited. You will only practice a few things, not the entire range of the path. And then that means that your precious human rebirth and the effort that you have is wasted, because it will not be made meaningful. Meaningful here means that you will practice all the practices of the 3 scopes and you will reach enlightenment. This is what makes precious human rebirth meaningful. You must therefore rely on a fully qualified spiritual guide. So fully qualified means he must have all the qualifications. It's a big list of qualities. So from now on, he will explain what does fully qualified means.
Okay.
All right. So the first line on page 237, it says it must be someone who has fully mastered sutras and tantras. So this expression, to fully master, it means he must know thoroughly. He must know in detail, not just glossing on the top, like I know sutra and know tantra. And he must know the details. And he has mastered to the point where he has full confidence. Full confidence here will come with the ability to explain it to others without having any fear or any nervousness. If the teacher actually fully knows, fully understands the material, they have the experience and they have the realization, then they have no fear at all talking about it or explain that subject. This, oh, do you get again? Do you get again? How is it? Oh, how is it? Okay. So if the teacher must have this type of confidence coming from the depth of his knowledge. As Namtrel says, if you don't understand something, how could you possibly explain it to others? So it's exactly like this. We are looking for this type of quality for the teacher. Therefore, we're looking for a teacher who can guide us all the way till Buddhahood. A man who has the ability to take you to Buddhahood through their experience and their realizations. Therefore, as your teacher, people, okay, I can see we have poor connection. Sorry. All right. Okay, is it clear now? Okay. So, what we say is that we're looking for not just anyone. You cannot just rely on anyone, upon anyone. You find someone and you say, oh, okay, this one will do. You must rely upon someone who has the full capacity to lead you to Buddhahood through their realizations and experience. The biggest mistake people do is to just rely upon the first person they meet as a guru. Then after a while they are disappointed, they lose their faith or their faith lapses, and then all the problems that we have begin from that point onward. Okay, we continue. There are many individual qualifications. The ability to give pratimoksha vows, tantric vows, and bodhisattva vows, etc. So when we're talking about qualifications of the teacher, right, you want to see if they're qualified in a particular area. Okay, so let's say, are they qualified to give vows? And what type of vows? Vows of individual liberation, bodhisattva vows, tantric vows. So for each one of those cases, you will be looking for a specific list of qualities and qualifications. Here, I will deal with the qualification of a spiritual guide who can teach the complete Lamrim. So here we're interested with someone who can teach the complete stages of the path. You should investigate to see whether the teacher has these qualifications before you rely on him. So there is emphasis on this point that we must examine the teacher, and this examination must happen prior to deciding that we take this person as a teacher. Not only should you investigate the qualifications of any guru you wish to rely on as your spiritual guide, but also anyone who wishes to give spiritual guidance in the Vinaya, Sutra, or Tantra should examine themselves to see if they have the qualifications to be a guru in these subjects. If not fully qualified, they should see to it that they become so. So it's not just that the student is examining the teacher, whether the teacher is qualified, but someone who has a bit of knowledge. If they want to become a guru, if they want to become a teacher, they should examine themselves and say, am I qualified to do this? Am I qualified to teach others or not? If they find that they are lacking in some area, knowledge, experience, and so forth, they should try to develop this first and then begin, let's say, their career as a teacher. Okay, it says, having all the tantric paraphernalia, such as a long life vase or a ritual bathing equipment, and knowing how to perform the ceremonies by heart, do not make a fully qualified guru. So just because someone is able to perform a ritual and they have all the ritual objects and they can recite it from memory, that doesn't make them a fully qualified guru. There are individual sets of qualifications. One for being an abbot, an ordination master, able to teach Vinaya. One for being a spiritual guide of the common Mahayana. And one for being a Vajra master of the secret Tantras. So we have one set of qualities for a Vinaya master, another set of qualities for the Mahayana teacher, and another set of qualities for the Tantric teacher. I shall mainly describe the qualifications of the Guru that are of the common Mahayana. And this is done by referring into Maitreya's ornament of the sutras. So this ornament of the sutras tells us, rely on a spiritual guide who is subdued, pacified, most pacified. So these are the first three qualities in the list of 10. The first one, a guide or a teacher who is subdued, becomes subdued through the practice of ethics. Ethics is what subdues your mind stream. The second one, pacified. You become pacified through the training of concentration. And you become most pacified through the training of wisdom. So as you can see, the first three qualities, subdued, pacified, and most pacified, are directly related to training in the three higher trainings. Okay, then it continues by saying, number 4, the fourth quality, one who has more qualities than you. All right, so if someone is going to be your teacher and you're going to be their student, they should know more than you do. They cannot know exactly as much as you do. If you have equal knowledge, this person doesn't have anything additional to teach you, right? So they should know more than you, and they should have more qualities than you. The next one, number 5, is perseverance. And perseverance here means that they have the stamina or the enthusiasm to work for the benefit of others. Number 6 is the wealth of scripture. Wealth of scripture here means that they have received a lot of teachings. So they have the transmission of a lot of teachings. Another expression for that is rich in transmission. So they have that wealth. The next one, number 7, says realization into suchness. So realization into suchness means that they have realization of the subtle meaning of emptiness. It comes through training of wisdom that was mentioned in the third quality, isn't it? And it means that they have realization of the correct view. The next one, number 8, says who is a skilled speaker. Skilled speaker here means that the teacher should be very skilled in terms of the advice or the things that they say to the disciples. So they should examine and determine, should I make a comment here or not? Should I say this or not? If I say it in this way, will it benefit my students or not? So this is what it means to be skilled speaker. They choose their words carefully so that whatever they say will be of benefit in that particular situation. Okay, the next one, number 9, says it's the embodiment of love. The embodiment of love here indicates that the teacher should have affection for the students. If you have affection for the students, actually you care quite a lot for the students. And because the teacher will care and will have this affection for the students, would always be thinking, how can I benefit them? I could teach this, or I could give them this advice, or, what can I teach them? How can I help them? Or also the teacher will be quite careful in terms of how they teach, so that it will be of most benefit to the students. And the last one is that is not discouraged. Not discouraged here means that the teacher does not give up, because sometimes it's quite difficult to teach the students. For example, the teacher might have to repeat a particular instruction or a subject again and again, and the teacher should have no sense of boredom or no sense of frustration in teaching the students. Sometimes you hear people say, I will only explain this once, so listen carefully. I'm not going to repeat this, I'm bored. I can't just be repeating myself. So here we're looking for a teacher who is not discouraged, bored, or disappointed, and will keep repeating or keep trying to benefit the students. So here with this verse, we have identified this list of 10 qualities that are so important to find in a fully qualified teacher. Okay, so we have given the quotation from the ornament to the sutras, and Geshe has already explained these words, but now we're going to the actual text with the explanation of Pabongka Rinpoche. So it says, this makes 10 qualifications in all. Guru's mind streams should be subdued by ethics. Their mental distraction should be pacified by single-pointed concentration. Their grasping of the self should be most pacified by wisdom. When a stick of incense is placed among other pieces of wood, the wood acquires its fragrance, and you also acquire the Guru's faults and good qualities. Guru should therefore have more qualities than you. So you see, he gives this explanation of why the Guru should have more qualities than you, with this nice example of the sandalwood and the ordinary wood. We are like the ordinary wood, and we absorb the good qualities, or we develop, and also the faults of the Guru. Next one, realization into suchness, is as follows. They have discovered the view by means of wisdom gained through their studies. So the view is a view according to the Prasangika school. This is higher wisdom. So I'm not referring to the wisdom that comes when one discovers the view through the Spantatrika school and below. The rest of the quotation is easy. So he is making it clear here that he's talking about the realizing the view, the correct view, but this refers to the highest view according to the middle way consequence school and not the autonomy school. And then he does not go into repeating, does not go into an explanation of the other obvious points, because doing that, when you go over points that they are obvious or you have already covered, it almost becomes a repetition. And this is considered to be a fault, a technical fault in the presentation, if you're going over and over the same points that are already cleared or have already been discussed. So he doesn't go into that. And then he says, even if the Guru doesn't have all the qualifications, he must definitely have at least these 5. Okay, so what is he saying here? He says, I have given a list of 10 qualifications. This is what we should be looking at the Guru. But since we are living in degenerative times, it is actually very hard to find someone who is fully qualified. It is very hard to find someone who has the entire list of 10 qualities. So when that is the case, we sort of like lower the expectations and we say that amongst the 10, If he has 5, that will be enough. So which are these 5? Mind stream subdued by each of the 3 higher trainings: ethics, concentration and wisdom, love and compassion, and realization into suchness. So these are the minimum of 5 qualities we are looking for. Geshe Potowa said, everyone thought my master, Shangchuen Yerpa, hadn't studied much in anything, and because he had no patience, when frustrated, he was hardly polite in speech. All right, so what does it mean here to be polite in speech? For example, let's say that someone is working for you, and when they finish their work, you're going to pay them for what is due for the work they have done. But you don't just give them the money. Together with the money, you pay them a compliment for their work. And you say something like, good work, I'm pleased with your work, well done, something like that. And the person who have done the work for you, when they hear these words of praise, they are quite pleased. Obviously, they are pleased because they are paid for the work, but also they are pleased because you have praised them. So this is a form of politeness, okay? So he's talking here, Geshe Potowa, he's talking about his teacher, and he said, everyone thought that he hadn't studied, everyone could see that he was impatient and he was not polite. But Yerpa has the above 5 qualifications, and anyone who meets him benefits. So even though he's not polite, he's a bit rough, because he has the 5 qualities, he is benefiting everyone. And Nyingtongpa had absolutely no speaking skills, although he can discuss all the required topics. One would think that everyone would not understand, but that is not so. He has the 5 qualifications, and everyone near him benefits. So he's talking about his teachers here, and he says by having those 5 qualifications, actually when they speak, when they teach, when they interact with others, they always benefit others. And then Pabongka Rinpoche also explains, being polite, cited above, means saying that's all right, or responding with thank you and well done. So, as we say, when you're looking for a teacher and you're examining, obviously you're going to look for the best teacher available. The best teacher available should have the full list of 10 qualities. But taking in mind that we live in degenerative times, even if you search with someone with the full list of 10 qualities, you will find that it is very rare, very difficult to find. In this case, you should be satisfied with someone who has the list of these 5 qualities that are mentioned here. Last. So it continues and says, those such people will be rare till the end of time. It is very rare to find someone who is fully qualified with a full list of 10 qualities or even the 5 qualities. He says, look as much as you like, till the end of time. In particular, within this degenerative era, it's very rare to find such people. So, the point is that you must rely on someone who has mainly good qualities rather than faults, who puts future lives before this life and the others before himself. So you see, he began by giving a list of 10 qualities, and he said, if you cannot find the 10 qualities, you can be satisfied with the 5 qualities. And then he gave these examples through Geshe Potowa, isn't it? And now he's saying even the 5 qualities are hard to find. So the bottom line is that you should be looking for at least 3 qualities. What are the 3 qualities? First one is they have more qualities than faults. Obvious. Number 2, they put future lives before this life. It means they consider future lives to be more important than this life. Number 3, they put others before himself, meaning that between himself and others, he considers others to be more important. If you do not do this and instead meet with a non-virtuous guide, you may become like Angulimala, who was taught a perverted path by a wrong spiritual guide and was then made to commit horrendous sins. So he says, look properly, find someone who is qualified, either with the 10 or the 5 of all these 3 qualities. Otherwise, if you rely on someone that you don't examine, that you don't find these qualities, then you might end up like Angulimala. He was misguided and he killed 999 people and therefore created extremely heavy negativity. So it says, first thoroughly investigate the Guru and rely on him only if you see he is worthy of it. So the word here, worthy of it, it means he has the qualifications that make him a worthy teacher to rely upon. So either the 10 or the 5 or the 3 in this paragraph, which says, has more good qualities than faults, puts future lives before this life, and puts others before himself. That's the minimum, the bottom, like the bottom line. Okay. Then it says, disciples should also have 5 qualifications, not just the teacher, but disciples as well. Number 1, they should be honest and impartial, not attached to their own group and hostile to other groups. So if you find, if someone has this attitude that is very attached to their own group, to their own, to their own group of people, but then very angry and hostile towards every other group, and therefore the person is not honest, like it's not impartial, then that person is not suitable to be a student. The second one, they should have the wisdom to know right from wrong, so discrimination. Number 3, they should yearn for the teachings. So whatever subject and whatever advice the teacher is giving, they should have that intense interest. They really want to hear that. They are yearning for those teachings. Number 4, they should have great respect for the Guru. So great interest for what the Guru has to teach and great respect for the Guru. The next one, number 5, they should listen with their minds properly directed. Properly directed here means they are not distracted, right? So it's not that the Guru begins talking and instead of paying attention to that, they start thinking about something else. So they should not be distracted when the teacher is giving advice. If they have these 5, it says here they will progress in Dharma. However, the expression in Tibetan, it means they will reach perfection. They will reach the end of the path, right, in terms of the Dharma, and that indicates they will reach enlightenment. Okay, and then it finishes this section saying, so how does such a disciple go about devoting oneself to the Guru? Okay, so far it has said it's very important to rely upon the Guru. It's the root of the path. If you rely on the Guru, there will be these benefits. If you do not rely upon the Guru, there will be these faults. Before you rely on the Guru, you must examine the Guru, and the Guru must have this and this qualifications. But so far he has not actually said, how do you rely yourself upon this Guru? So that's the next heading. Lost Geshe-la. Okay, so we continue with the next outline, which is devoting yourself through thought. So it's like, this is how does the disciple go about devoting oneself to a Guru. This has 2 subheadings. Number 1, the root, training yourself to have faith in your Guru. And number 2, remembering his kindness and developing respect for him. So, very important subject here, training yourself to have faith in the Guru. So, the word training there indicates that this is something that we are lacking and therefore we must develop it. Right, faith is something that we don't have. And because we don't have it, we must understand how we can train in it, how we can develop it, what is the correct way of thinking in order to do that. So these two headings use both scripture and logic, thus forming an unassailable edifice. So these two headings, the heading of training yourself to have faith and the heading of remembering his kindness in order to develop respect for him, they use both scripture and logic. So logic here means reasoning, different types of logical reasoning. And if you actually approach it in this way, using both scripture and logic, at the end you will come to this conclusion that says, I must rely on the teacher. I will rely on the teacher. And this will be something which will be, this thought, this conclusion will be very strong. It will not be something that is flimsy or can be changed or can be harmed easily. So this is what it says. It says, if you meditate on them, you will be most happy to devote yourself properly to a spiritual guide. So follow this process of using scripture and logic, and at the end you will be totally convinced. If you don't meditate on them, you will only want to request teachings from him and have no other relationship. So it really affects how much you want to relate to the teacher. So the first one, the root, training yourself to have faith in your guru. This will have three headings. Here, faith means having the attitude that the guru is actually a Buddha. So here, faith means such and such, indicates that there are many different ways of explaining faith, and there are different types of faith. But here, when we say that faith is the root, this faith is the faith of that comes with realizing or seeing that your guru is actually a Buddha. Okay. The thing is that we actually are lacking this faith. When we're looking at the guru, we're picking up many faults and shortcomings. Or we say, look at him, he's angry. Look at him, he doesn't know how to teach this text properly. Look at, look at the teachings he's giving and so forth. And these thoughts that we have indicate that we are lacking this specific faith that sees the guru as being the Buddha. So this particular type of faith and the understanding that all sentient beings have at one time been your mother are the two most difficult Lamrim meditation topics to develop. So when we try to develop bodhicitta, we go through the sevenfold cause and effect method. And this method begins by recognizing that all sentient beings have been your mother, remembering the kindness, wishing to repay the kindness. Then you develop the love of attraction and so on and so forth. So the first step of this is recognizing all sentient beings to be your mother. So it is said that these two realizations, the faith that sees the guru as being actually a Buddha and recognizing all sentient beings to be your mother, are the two most difficult Lamrim meditation topics. There are many meditation topics, right? These two are the most difficult. It says, although they are difficult, you will not develop the other paths in your mind stream unless you put effort into these two. So he has already says it is difficult. And hearing this, you might be thinking, oh, if it is so difficult, leave it. I'm going to leave it. Can I skip it? Okay, it's a difficult thing. There are some other subjects coming later on that are a bit easier to develop. So let me skip this one that is so difficult and let me do something else. And the answer to that is no. It is difficult, but you cannot skip it. You cannot push it aside. Instead, you must put effort into developing this, because this is the root. It is the root of any other subsequent realization, any other subsequent Lamrim meditation. And if you don't develop the root, you will not develop the other subjects as well. And if you do not develop all these Lamrim meditations, you will not reach the state of enlightenment. So, although it is difficult, it doesn't mean that we can skip it and we can put it aside. actually we must put great effort into developing that realization. The faith that sees the Guru as being the actual Buddha, and also recognizing all sentient beings as being our mothers. Last Geshe-la. Yes. Okay, so we continue from where were we? All right, so he has explained faith here in this particular context. It says faith here specifically meaning seeing your Guru as being actually the Buddha. But because he's stressing that faith is so important, he backtracks a little bit in the presentation. He says, okay, I need to explain faith in general. So he has already said in this specific occasion how we are to understand faith, but now he's going to explain the nature of faith in general. Okay, so it says, faith in general is generally the basis of root for the development of all positive things. So all positive things here refers to white or virtuous qualities. So faith in general is the basis for developing all the virtuous qualities. And the Lamp of the Three Jewels Sutra says, faith is the preparation. It gives birth like a mother. It protects all good qualities and increases them. So as you can see, the quotation perfectly fits this description. It gives birth to all the qualities and protects them and increases them. Once a man asked Atisha twice, Atisha, please give me instruction. So Master Atisha was circumambulating a stupa, and a man approached him and asked him twice, please give me instruction, please give me instruction. Atisha said absolutely nothing, and the man made his request yet again, this time by shouting it. So he asked twice, and because he didn't get any reply, he raised the voice and he said, give me instruction. And hey, said Atisha. So Atisha was laughing. And he says, I'm afraid my hearing is sound, quite sound. Meaning there's nothing wrong with my ears, nothing wrong with my hearing. I can hear you perfectly. Here is my instruction. Have faith, faith, faith. So the instruction that he gave was to have faith. And then you see he's actually repeating the word faith twice. Faith, faith. So he's really emphasizing what an important thing is to have faith. Faith in general as the basis of all qualities, in particular here, faith that sees the Guru as being the Buddha. And also the great Gyalwa Nsapa said, in brief, your experiences and realizations will be great or small, just as your familiarity with faith is great and small. So he identifies here that there is a direct connection between faith and experiences and realizations. So he says if you have small faith, you're going to have small realizations and experiences. If you have a middling faith, then experiences and realizations will be of middling size. And if you have great faith, then all your experiences and realizations will also be great. Then it says, your kind Guru is the source of siddhis. So siddhis here is in plural, because in general we can make a twofold division of the siddhis. One is the supreme or the ultimate siddhi, and that ultimate siddhi is obviously reaching the state of Buddhahood. But prior to reaching this, we have some lesser or ordinary siddhis that you could say they're more or less immediately available to us. And we obtain them, and they actually support us and they help us along the path so that we can reach the ultimate siddhi quicker. So the origin or the source of all those siddhis is the kind Guru. Contemplate his qualities and ignore his faults. Hold his instructions in your palm and promise to keep them to the last. So he says, stop seeing faults at the Guru, rather focus on his qualities, recognize him as being the same as the actual Buddha, and hold this instruction as if it is like the essence of your practice. Like, make this promise that you will hold this to the very end. This is how you will complete the path. So it is a strong encouragement and aspiration, a strong promise and aspiration to reach that. Then it says, in other words, whether you develop realizations depends on whether you have faith and on whether your faith is great or small. Okay. You must have the faith of regarding your guru as really being a Buddha if you are to achieve the Supreme City. So the Supreme City is the city of enlightenment, the city of Buddhahood. That means establishing the 4 bodies of the Buddha. So if you are to achieve the Supreme City of Buddhahood, you must have this type of faith. Therefore, you definitely must not be mistaken about the instructions you receive. So here he's saying that you need 2 things. You need faith that sees the Guru as the Buddha. And number 2, you should not be mistaken with regards to the instruction that he gives you. Because once you have that faith, obviously you're going to rely on the Guru, and the Guru will give you instructions. Even if you get the instructions wrong. So it's not the case that the Guru gives wrong instructions, but when we hear them, sometimes we misapprehend them. So we get the instructions wrong. You can still achieve the lesser common cities if you believe in it. So if you have both the correct faith and correct instructions in your mind, you will achieve the Supreme City. But if you misunderstand the instructions, you will not get the Supreme, but you will get a lesser, an ordinary city instead. So this is explained by a story. It says, in India, a man asked a guru for instructions, and the guru said, Marileja, which means go away. The man did not understand. So obviously that must have been in a local dialect or something, and the man didn't know this dialect. He didn't know the language of that place. So whatever the guru said, and the guru said go away, he took it as an instruction and managed to heal his own and other people's illnesses by reciting the word a number of times. So he thought Marileja was actually a mantra. So he started reciting Marileja, Marileja, Marileja. And due to his strong faith, he got the ability to heal himself and also to heal other people who were sick. So you can see some benefit, some siddhi there, even though he gets the instruction wrong. Another person mistook Om Vale Vule Vunde Soha for the mantra of the goddess Chundra. The V's are wrong. They should be cheese. So it should be Om Chale Chule Chunde Soha. Okay? He recited this a number of times, and so during a famine, he was able to cook and eat rocks. So even though he was reciting the mantra wrong, due to his faith, he obtained siddhis that were very helpful. So it says, if you lack faith, you will get nothing from your wisdom. So you might have knowledge, you might have great perseverance and so forth, great enthusiastic effort, but if you're lacking faith, you will get nothing. Okay, last song. Last. Okay, so we're going to stop here in terms of the text for tonight. And just to summarize the very important topics that we have covered tonight, it says that if you don't have faith for the Guru, you will not develop any qualities and realizations. And in this particular context, faith means to see the Guru as being actually the Buddha. According to the intensity or the degree of your faith, this will determine the level of realizations you have. So if you have small faith, there will be small realizations. If you have great faith of seeing the Guru as being the Buddha, then you will have great and significant realizations. The point that is illustrated here is that unless you have this particular type of faith, you will not obtain the Supreme Siddhi. Another important point is that you should listen carefully to the instruction that the Guru is giving you, because in order to progress along the path, you need to have unmistaken instruction. The instruction is given correctly to us, but sometimes we don't hear it correctly, we confuse it, we mix up the order, and so forth. So again, if the instruction is understood wrongly, then again the Supreme Siddhi will not be attained. Okay, so these are the main points that have been presented tonight. And this section is followed by two outlines, very important outlines. The next one is the reason you must regard the Guru as the Buddha. And after that, the reason you are able to see him in this way. So important outlines that we will follow next time. But we stop here for tonight. Okay, dedication prayer.
Janjo semjo rembo je ma je banam je yo je